I had almost convinced myself that grief fades with time, that it mellows into something you can fold away, like a letter whose words have blurred with age. For 10 years, I'd lived with the silence that followed Daniel's death. And though it never stopped aching entirely, I had learnt to breathe around the absence. But the night his voice called me at 3 a.m., everything I thought I'd buried came clawing back to life. It began as a faint vibration on my bedside table, my phone, trembling like a heartbeat I'd forgotten. I remember glancing at the screen, half asleep, expecting a wrong number or perhaps some automated message. But the name that glowed in the dark froze me. Daniel Calloway. For a moment, I couldn't move. My mind struggled to reconcile what my eyes saw with what I knew, that Daniel had died in a car crash on the A46 10 years ago. His number had been disconnected long before. I'd checked that myself during those cruel, restless weeks after his funeral. I stared at the screen until the call ended, leaving a hollow quiet that seemed to throb in the walls. Sleep was impossible after that. I sat upright, staring into the dark, half expecting the phone to ring again. Every rational thought tried to explain it away, a glitch, a recycled number, a cruel coincidence. But when I opened my call log, the entry was there, time-stamped 3:02 a.m., with the familiar number I'd deleted years ago. I didn't tell anyone at first. I suppose part of me was afraid of what it might sound like, madness, longing, or something worse. Yet, all through the next day, I felt his presence like static in the air. I'd glance at the reflection in my office window and think I saw him, just out of focus, standing where no one stood. I tried to drown it out with work, with endless coffee and small talk, but everything around me seemed to echo him, his laugh, his favourite phrases, even the faint trace of his cologne when I opened the old drawer where I kept his letters. Daniel and I had grown up together in Oxfordshire. We were inseparable from childhood, the kind of bond people called unbreakable until life proved otherwise. He was always the dreamer, chasing ideas I could never quite keep up with. I was the one who kept both our feet on the ground. We'd planned a life once, a small house by the river, his art studio out back, my books stacked in every corner. But the night he died, everything unravelled in an instant. The crash report had said it was raining heavily. His car had spun off the road, hit a tree, and caught fire. They said he died instantly. I'd believed them because believing otherwise would have destroyed me. But when the second call came, the very next night, at exactly 3:02 a.m., I answered. At first there was only static, a faint hiss like the wind across a microphone. Then came the voice, soft, unmistakable. "Eleanor!" I froze. My throat constricted, my heart stuttered. The sound was warped, like something pressed through water, but it was his. I'd know that voice anywhere. The gentleness, the drawl, the tiny catch on my name. "Daniel," I whispered. For a heartbeat, silence. Then, "You have to come back before it's too late." The line went dead. The next morning, I found myself driving to our old town, though I'd sworn never to go back. 10 years had changed it, the bakery gone, the ivy heavier on the church wall, the air somehow thinner. I parked near the riverbank where we used to sit for hours and talk about everything and nothing. The water looked darker now, its surface rippling with the same unease that pulsed in my chest. At the edge of the path stood the old phone booth, a relic, half swallowed by moss. Daniel used to joke that one day we'd call the future from it. The absurdity of it made me smile then. Now it chilled me. The door creaked when I pushed it open. Inside, scratched initials still marked the glass D+E, carved with the impatience of youth. The receiver hung crookedly, but the line was dead. I placed my hand on it anyway, and for a moment I swore it pulsed with warmth. I left shaken, unsure whether grief had finally broken something in me. But when I returned to my car, I found an envelope tucked under the wiper, old, yellowed, addressed in Daniel's handwriting. My name, written in the same looping letters he'd used in every letter he'd ever sent. My hands trembled as I tore it open. Inside was a single page. If you're reading this, I never made it home. Don't believe what they told you. Come to the cabin. There was no date, no signature, just those words and a faint fingerprint smudged in ink. The cabin. It sat deep within Witchwood Forest, the place Daniel went when he wanted to be alone, to paint or to think. I hadn't been there since before the accident. My first instinct was to burn the letter, to bury the madness before it consumed me. But I couldn't. Something inside me, the same part that had waited 10 years for closure, needed to know. The road to the forest was narrower than I remembered. The trees leaned in, their branches whispering against the roof of the car. When I reached the clearing, the cabin looked exactly as it had in memory, half collapsed, roof thick with moss, windows clouded with grime. The air smelled of rain and rot. I stepped inside. Dust coated everything. The table, the canvas still propped in the corner, the mug with a ring of dried coffee. And then I saw it. A second envelope, lying beside an old tape recorder. The handwriting was the same. I pressed play. Static filled the room, followed by Daniel's voice, clearer now, but strained, urgent. If you found this, it means something went wrong. They'll say it was an accident, Ellie, but it wasn't. I didn't crash because of the rain. Someone was there. Someone followed me. I saw the lights behind me. They ran me off the road. My breath caught. If you hear from me again, the recording continued, it means they never stopped watching. Don't trust anyone who asks about me, and whatever you do, don't go to the river. The tape ended with a click that seemed to echo forever. For a long time, I stood there, paralyzed between past and present. The rational part of me screamed for sense, that this was impossible, some cruel fabrication or hallucination. But I couldn't ignore the weight of his voice or the cold certainty in his words. I drove to the police that afternoon, letter and tape in hand. They listened politely, took notes, and promised to look into it. The constable's eyes were kind but cautious, the kind reserved for the grieving or unstable. Sometimes memory plays tricks, he said gently. You've carried a lot for a long time. I left feeling foolish, though the unease never left me. That night, at 3:02, the phone rang again. This time, I didn't answer. I let it ring until it stopped, but when I checked the voicemail, my heart stopped with it. It was Daniel again, only this time his voice was clearer, closer, almost alive. Why didn't you listen, Ellie? You went to the cabin. You shouldn't have gone behind him. I could hear something else, faint, rhythmic, like footsteps on wet ground. Then a whisper. They found me again. The message cut off with a shuddering breath. In the days that followed, strange things began happening. My car alarm went off at night, though no one was near it. I found muddy footprints by my door, though it hadn't rained. I received emails from an address I didn't recognize, blank, save for the subject line, "The river knows." I began to question everything, not just the calls, but the accident itself. Daniel had been investigating something before he died, a string of land deals near the old quarry. He'd mentioned corruption, bribes, threats. I'd dismissed it then as another of his reckless crusades, but now I wasn't so sure. I searched through his old things, letters I'd kept sealed for years. Hidden among sketches and receipts, I found a torn photograph. Daniel standing by the river, another man beside him, face obscured. On the back, Daniel had written one word: truth. It took me a week to gather the courage, but eventually I returned to the river, the same place where we'd spent summers laughing, planning, living. The water was low now, the mud cracked with the onset of winter. Near the old oak, something caught my eye, the edge of a car bumper, half buried in silt. My pulse hammered. Kneeling, I brushed away the dirt until the metal gleamed faintly under the torchlight. It was his car, but the police had said they found it miles away. I stumbled back, the truth dawning like frost. The crash had been staged. The car they'd shown me wasn't his. It had been moved, switched, burnt. Whatever Daniel had uncovered before he died, someone had wanted it buried deep, and they'd succeeded. Until now. That night, I drove home trembling, heart torn between relief and terror. I had proof now, but no one to show it to, no one who'd believe. I left the photograph, the tape, and the letter on my kitchen table, meaning to call someone in the morning. At exactly 3:02 a.m., my phone rang again. I answered without thinking. "Ellie," Daniel said softly, "it's over now." Tears blurred my vision. "Daniel, please, where are you? What do I do?" A pause, then quieter. "Thank you for finding me." The line went silent. The clock ticked once, twice, and then my phone screen went black. When I tried to switch it on again, it was dead, the battery drained though it had been full. I never heard from him again. The police reopened the case weeks later, after workers dredged the river and found the remains of a second vehicle, one that had clearly been forced off the bank. Evidence of foul play, they said. They promised an investigation, though it never made the papers. Sometimes, late at night, I still wake at 3:02, heart pounding, ears straining for a sound that never comes. And though I never heard Daniel's voice again, I like to think he finally found peace. But every now and then, when the wind moves through the trees just right, it carries a whisper that sounds achingly familiar. And I can't help but wonder, if voices can cross from the past, how far does love echo before it finally fades?